So we're going to talk about vocals today, and especially vocal delay. So I'm going to share with you my top 5 pro vocal delay tricks. Hey, what's going on, my friend? Chris Lim here from Mixdown Online. Now, before we start this one up, I'm going to encourage you to download my free PDF guide on vocal delay tricks. The link is down below. Now, let's start this one up. I'm going to start with the first trick that I want to share with you today, and this one is to use a slapback delay. So I'm going to show you what that is all about. The slapback delay is essentially a short delay, and a short delay is going to add some fullness, some density, and some space around the vocal. And I love to use a stereo delay to work with a slapback delay. So I'm going to jump in CUBASE, put on my headphones, and I'm gonna just use the stock plugin out of CUBASE, the stereo delay, so anyone can use that from your own DAW. And I'm actually having this delay on an effects channel track, so as a send effect. So it's not inserted on the vocal channel, but it's inserted on the effects channel track, and I'm sending the signal from my vocal channel to the effects channel track. This way it gives me way more flexibility, and that's like for 90% of the time I'm gonna work this way when it comes to delays and reverbs. All right, so now I'm gonna open this stereo delay, and the idea is to create a super short delay without any repeats, only like one repeat max, okay? So that's why the feedback is way down to 0%. If you increase the amount of feedback, that will increase the amount of repeats. And I don't want that in this case. I'm gonna use that later on, but not for a slapback delay. I just wanna get that initial repeat, and that's it. And that was going to be enough to create a very nice space around the vocal and bring my vocal a bit more dense. So what I'm doing now in this case is to, like, instead of using the sync option, which is going to sync to the tempo of my project, I'm just going to use the milliseconds as far as the delay time goes. And as a starting point, I'm going to start at 125 milliseconds. Usually that will depend on the tempo of the song I'm mixing, but I can start up depending on if it's a high tempo song or a low tempo song. I can start at 80 milliseconds and up to 200 milliseconds and even 225 milliseconds if I want to. So that will depend on the song I'm mixing. Like in general, lower milliseconds will work better on faster songs and higher milliseconds on slower songs. But that is only, again, a starting point. All right, so let's start this one with these parameters. So on one side, the left side, I have 125 milliseconds, and on the right side, delay 2, I have 175 milliseconds. The reason why I'm doing so is to create a difference between those two sides, so I can end up with a stereo effect, or else it's just going to cancel itself. If I bring both delays to the same millisecond value, it's going to cancel itself out and it's going to sound mono, and this is not what I want to do in this case. And then my panning goes to the far left for delay 1 and to the far right for delay 2. So let's have a quick listen.
Trouvé par la rose et je fuis vers l'infiniment petit.
Again, it's a matter of balance.
Le regard tourné vers lui, mon firmament il brille d'un amour extravagant, d'une couleur sans un temps, me poussant dans l'infini de cet instant. Trouvé par la rose et je fuis vers l'infiniment petit, le regard tourné vers lui.
Okay, so you get the idea. You can hear that the vocal, when I add the slapback delay, will sound a bit more dense. And that's the goal of using a slapback delay, to add a bit more density, more space around the vocal, and that works pretty well. And again, it's a matter of balance. In some type of productions, you want to hear a bit more of that slapback delay. In other productions, you want to bring it down and make it a bit more just like to feel that you're in the space more than hearing the delay itself. Now, I just want to try something out here. I want to increase. I'm going to add a bit more milliseconds here just to try it out. So 175 on one side and 225 on the other. So we'll listen if that one sounds better for this song. Let me bring that down to 150 and maybe 200 on this one. Now, by using a stereo delay, if you hear that your slapback delay sounds a bit too wide, you can actually narrow down the panning of that delay by bringing down that knob, the pan knob, from the left and also from the right. You can also use a mono delay if you want. That actually can sound very good. So I'm going to bring my feedback down to 0. And a good starting point as time delay goes, 1/16 of a note can do the job pretty well. Which in milliseconds is going to go at around roughly 180 milliseconds. And the same idea, you can just tweak that around to your own taste. So this is the slapback delay. Try it out. Let me know how it goes. Now, for the second trick is to use a 1/8 of a note delay to fill up the gaps of the vocals. Okay, so let's try this one out. And this goes on another effects channel that is right beside my slap delay channel. And I'm going to use the same plugin, the stereo delay from CUBASE. And this time around, I'm going to set that one up to sync. So it is synced to the tempo of the mix I'm working on. And I'm going to set that up to 1/8 of a note. And that will actually add a longer delay than the slap delay that we used earlier. And I'm going to add, in this case, more feedback. So instead of having the feedback to 0, I'm going to bring that one up so I can create more repeats, because I want to fill up the gaps, when there's pauses in the melody, on the vocal. I want to make sure that I get a bit more repeats just to fill up those empty gaps. Okay, so let me check this out with 40% for the feedback. Again, very important, by the way, to bring the mix knob to 100% wet, because we are using this plugin in parallel. So it's on an effects channel track, so that wet and dry needs to be at 100%. That also goes for the slapback delay that we used earlier, and also for any types of delays or reverbs. Okay, so keep that in mind. And again, the panning will go to the far left and the far right on delay 1 and 2. And this is what I'm going to end up with. So, the way it's set up right now, 1/8 of a note on each side, same parameters. As you can tell, it sounds mono, so everything is in the center. That might work for you. So if it does, you're good to go. But in my case, I want to just keep having that stereo image a bit more wider. So I'm going to do something pretty cool on this delay, since I'm limited with the amount of options. I'm going to unsync one of the delays. And I'm going to calculate how much is 1/8 of a note out of my tempo, which is 83 BPM. In my case, since I know that 361 milliseconds is 1/8 of a note, roughly, I just brought that down to 350 milliseconds on one side, and I kept the 1/8 of a note on the second one, and this is how it sounds like.
Par la rose et je fuis
instead of this.
Vers l'infiniment petit, le regard tourné vers lui, mon firmament il
sounds way more stereo. I can, hear that the repeats are surrounding my vocals. So now let's listen to this effect in the context of the mix. So again, it's a matter of balance, and the trick is to make sure you hear those repeats, in a subtle way, just to fill up those empty spaces from the vocal line without being too much and too present. And that's the danger with delays. You can end up adding way too much. So in my case, like in this situation, anyways, I want to keep it subtle. Maybe on some other mixes and other situations, I would like to have them a bit more present, but in this case I'm just going to keep it a bit more subtle. The ping pong delay is also a nice option to be used on a vocal. Compared to the stereo delay will apply delay on each side, the left and the right, at the same time. The ping pong delay will bounce from left to right. Okay, so the delay, the right side delay and the left side delay will not play at the same time. So let's have a listen. So that can create a very cool rhythmic stereo effect. But if that is a bit too wide, you can bring down the spatial knob here, which is going to reduce the image of that delay. Now for the third trick, EQ your delay. So this is something, honestly, that helps a lot. And let's go back to our slapback delay. And there's an EQ straight on the plugin itself. You can also use an EQ plugin and add that after the delay or even before the delay. I'm going to show that to you right after. But most of the time, if I have some EQ parameters straight on the delay, it's going to be faster to reach out to those parameters than adding an extra plugin. But that depends on what you want to achieve. But let's go and use those filters. I'm going to filter out the top end and the bottom end of that delay to around 300 hertz and bring, cutting up the top down to 5.4 kilohertz. And same for the second side. Numbers are not matching, which I don't care much, it doesn't matter. But the goal here is to clean up the low-end frequencies, like the muddiness that I can get below 300 hertz. I don't want that surrounding my vocal, okay? So that's why I'm cleaning that up. And same for the top end, by bringing that top end down out of the delay plugin, it's gonna make the delay sound a bit more transparent, okay? And not that audible, which is gonna sound pretty good. So let's check it out with the slapback delay.
Je fuis vers l'infiniment petit. Le regard tourné.
Okay, I'm gonna turn off the filters.
Trouvé par la rosée, je fuis vers l'infiniment petit. Le regard tourné vers lui.
Okay, so
they
sound like the delays sound a bit more darker, which sounds more transparent and sits down way better in the mix. All right, so now let's check and do the same with the stereo delay.
Trouvé par la rosée, je fuis. Trouvé par la rosée, je fuis.
Sounds more darker, less muddy. Again, more transparent, and that sounds better in my opinion in the context of the mix. And now for tip number 4, add a reverb on your delay. Now, this is not something that I do all the time. However, it does happen that, especially if I'm not using an actual reverb for the vocals, but only a delay, adding a reverb after the delay is actually pretty nice. So let me check this out on the slapback delay. So I'm going to bypass my frequency EQ because I don't want to use those on this mix. And the stereo delay is right here. And I'm going to add a plate reverb right after my stereo delay. So I'm going to solo the vocal and let's have a quick listen.
Trouvé par la rosée, je fuis vers l'infiniment petit. le regard tourné vers...
Okay, so now what I'm doing here, I'm not using a long reverb, so it's not a super short one as well, but something that fits well with the tempo of the song. And the trick is to blend it to taste, okay, to make sure that you have the perfect balance between the dry and the wet signal. And so in this case, the blend parameter here is gonna help a lot, and that will determine how much reverb you want to get on your delay.
Couvé par la rose et je fuis vers l'infiniment petit.
That's pretty cool.
Le regard tourné vers lui, mon firmament il brille d'un amour extravagant, d'une couleur sans autant, me poussant dans l'infini de cet instant. Couvé par la rose et je fuis vers...
So that's pretty cool. So I kind of like how that sounds like. It's just going to add a bit more space around, that slapback delay, which is quite nice. I'm going to try the same on the stereo delay, the 1/8 of a note delay.
Couvé par la rose et je fuis vers l'infiniment petit. Le regard tourné vers lui, mon firmament il brille.
Okay, if I blend that in the context of the mix and also with the slapback delay.
Couvé par la rose et je fuis vers l'infiniment petit. Le regard tourné vers lui, mon firmament il brille d'un amour extravagant, d'une couleur sans autant, me poussant...
Tip number 5 is to use vocal throws, and this is something very cool to work with. I actually made a video on vocal throws if you want to watch it, because there's several ways you can set that up in CUBASE. I'm going to leave the link on top and down below. So for the vocal throws, I'm using the Echo Boy, and this one is set up to 1/4 of a note, so it's a longer delay with a lot of feedback. But what I'm doing is that I am automating the delay when the delay comes in and comes out, because I'm only adding that delay on specific lines, okay, of the vocal. And this is how it looks like straight from the project window. And I'm automating the send level going into that delay channel. Those are the automation that I have, and this is how it sounds like.
Couvé par la rose et je fuis vers l'infiniment petit. Le regard tourné vers lui, mon firmament il brille d'un amour extravagant, d'une couleur sans autant, me poussant...
All right, let's solo the lead vocal.
Couvé par la rose et je fuis vers l'infiniment petit. Le regard tourné vers lui, mon firmament il brille.
So vocal throws will be used for stylist type effects. So this is why I always use automation when working with throws, because you just want to focus on like some specific words or just one specific word out of a vocal line to emphasize on that word and make it repeat, which adds a very nice effect and a very good emotion also. Now I'm going to share with you one last tip, because I'm going to go to tip number 6. Okay, and this one is about using different tones and delay styles. Okay, I'm going to show that to you right away. And actually, if we stick to our delay throw channel, if I look at the Echo Boy that I'm using, I'm actually adding a lot of low cut to the signal and also a lot of high cut to the signal. So I actually end up with a kind of a radio type tone. And I'm also using a DM2 style. And this is the cool thing about the Echo Boy delay, which is one of my favorite delays. It has different styles, like the DM2 is what I'm using. There's also master tape, a studio tape, and so on, So this is why I ended up with this different type of tone for that delay. So let's just listen to it briefly.
Vers l'infiniment petit, le regard tourné
Okay,
vers...
now let's try it out on the stereo delay this time, and I'm going to use the Echo Boy, solo the vocal.
Vers l'infiniment petit, le regard tourné vers lui, mon firmament il...
Okay, so that is, a similar effect that I had with the stereo delay. 1/8 of a note, a bit of feedback, and now I'm going to add a bit more low cut and a bit of high cut filters. And there's the offset, and that is the option that I have on Echo Boy to just to make the right side and left side different. So it's going to just offset the left and right with this parameter. So instead of changing the values manually, I can just turn up that knob and keep my delay mode to single echo.
Vers l'infiniment petit, le regard tourné vers lui, m'affirme.
All right, so what I'm going to do here is instead of using a digital delay sound, which is the one we are hearing right now, I'm going to try the DM2.
Vers l'infiniment petit, le regard tourné vers lui.
Sounds way more darker. Let's go with space echo.
Vers l'infiniment petit, le regard tourné vers lui.
That's interesting. Echo flex.
Vers l'infiniment petit, le regard tourné vers lui.
So that's pretty cool, and I can even add some saturation if I want to.
Vers l'infiniment petit, le regard tourné vers lui. Mon firmament.
All right, so let's blend that in the context of the mix. So that's pretty cool. That sounds actually pretty good. So what I like about using delay styles like this one is just to add a bit more color to the delay, a bit more character also, and it also blends well in the mix and makes that delay more transparent, colorful also, and you can even end up adding a bit more delay without being too distractive, and this is something that I like to do. But sometimes a digital delay that is pretty clean is going to work well. But a lot of times I'm going to reach out for a different style of delay or just EQ the delay itself, adding saturation myself with the use of another plugin. So it depends on with which plugin I'm working with. If you don't have a plugin like the Echo Boy and the only delay you work with is a stock plugin delay, you can just mess around with EQ, saturation on the effects channel track and create your own delay tone, and that will work as well. So there you go, my friend. Those are my top 5 vocal delay tricks that you can use in your mixes. Again, you don't need to use them all at once, but it gives you different possibilities to work with on your next mix. If you have any comments or questions, you can leave everything down below. Don't forget to share, to like, to subscribe to this channel, and also to download the free PDF guide on Pro Vocal Delay Tricks. Until next time, take care and see you.